Good day, and welcome to the Budding Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Bridges. In each episode, I cover my experiences, both good and bad, of being a business builder, as well as my journey through the crazy world of entrepreneurship to reach my goal of earning $10 million a year. All right. We are on episode 149. Today is May 24th, 2024. I have a very special thing coming up next week as we are on the last day of the month. I'll be telling you about that a little bit today. We're making a change. Our sources have not changed this week. We're going to keep on working through the same books. I'm going to kind of adjust this a little bit on our sources to only the things that are new are going to be added each week. So we're not continuing to cover the same things. We are still going through the same video channels. And so this week's quote is from Steve Siebold, the great author. And he said, one of the hallmarks of the great ones is their level of awareness as to what they're willing to fight for. They're willing to suffer and sacrifice to make their visions a reality. And this should be something that's important to us because as we're going through and looking at all the pieces of the puzzle of our daily lives as business owners and our attempts at becoming the best entrepreneur we can be, it's important to set our vision, look at our dreams, and work to match those and meet them. And so that vision that we have becomes something that we're willing to make happen no matter what. Obviously, we don't want to lose anything like any of our values. None of our principles are going to be sacrificed. But the idea in having your daily morning routine that you use is to set your values and set your principles and make sure that they're in alignment with the things that you want, with your vision of where you're going and where you want to take everybody that's with you, clients, customers, and your employees as well. Now, going into our business strategy, this month we were working on value-based pricing, and we're going to go ahead and continue that. There were 5 types of value-based pricing that we were discussing: perceived value, performance-based, outcome-based, tiered, and range. And if you just want to find out a little bit more about them, go back to the last couple of podcasts. We also talked about the benefits of value-based pricing, implementing it. Last week, we talked about the example of a case environment for a digital marketing company. And so today we're going to be talking about a law firm and a management consulting firm. Now, as I mentioned earlier, next week is a special episode, obviously, episode 150. And so I'm going to be going back through all the podcasts and taking kind of a best of the budding entrepreneur. We'll be going all the way back. I have all of these episodes recorded. I have them all ready to go. And some of them didn't have an introduction. They didn't have any music. They were just bam, and we're into the podcast. So you will notice some differences in how things have worked. You'll notice differences in the style, but also the content and how the podcast has gone through. And we'll be looking at this next week. I expect the episode to take about an hour. It's going to be kind of a best of for everything that's going on. This is important to me, and I think celebrating this path of 150 episodes is going to be a good thing, and we'll be enjoying that. So let's jump into this week's examples and cases, and I want to really kind of review the overall strategy steps that we did. Last week we did for the digital marketing company. And so basically the steps are the same for all the different types of businesses you're going to go through for the most part. Step 1 is internal education and alignment. Step 2 is client consultations and needs assessment, going to our clients and finding out what they need. Step 3 is service package development. Step 4 is pricing structure definition. Step 5 is client communication and proposal presentation. Step 6 is pilot implementation and feedback collection. Step 7 is refinement and full implementation. And the final step is ongoing monitoring and optimization. And all of these fall roughly 2 weeks apart with the exception of the ongoing. And it's because everything has a cycle that it tends to work with. So you'll see, I mean, when people start understanding the different, they see the education and they see the alignment of what they're doing to the business and the alignment between those, that's a good thing. Once they start seeing it, now you'll recognize that it's time to move on. Okay? Let's dig in. I've got a lot of paper here, so if you hear some paper in the background, that's what it is. Our first scenario is with the law firm doing litigation practice. Now, this is a Smith & Associates, we're just going to call it that for now, is a reputable law firm specializing in civil litigation, representing clients in complex legal disputes. They offer a range of legal services, including trial representation, mediation, and arbitration. Now, their transition to value-based fees was not a surprising one. It's a very common one. In this case, Smith & Associates billed their clients on an hourly basis, but it often led to disputes over billing and dissatisfaction with unpredictable legal costs. They're seeking to align their fees with client outcomes and to enhance their transparency. They decided to adopt a value-based pricing model. There were 3 challenges they faced. Obviously, resistance from the lawyers and the law staff who were accustomed to billing by the hour. Okay, so they knew how much they were going to make based upon the number of hours that they were working. There were also concerns about accurately estimating the value of the legal services. And there was client skepticism regarding the shift away from traditional billing practices. And I know that quite well because when I was doing IT and we went away from the hourly billing and we went to what they call managed services, which was fixed fee per month, it was a challenge. We actually, out of 10 clients, we carried only 9 of them over. One of them just simply said, I don't want to do that. And that's fine. It happens. But in this case, for the law firm, for this case study, they went through on their strategy. They did their internal training. They implemented case assessment procedures to evaluate the potential value of each legal matter based on factors such as complexity, risk, and potential outcomes. Now, one of the key things that I generally have to explain to people is that when circumstances change and you are in a value-based pricing scenario, you may have to go back to an hourly temporarily in order to get back on track because, maybe the case type has changed. Maybe it was an uncontested divorce and now suddenly they've got a different attorney who wants to contest everything, right? So to a certain point, there will be maybe potential changes, and that's part of that complexity, risk, and potential outcomes. They also offered transparent pricing options based on the estimated value of the legal services required. They implemented clear deliverables and milestones. And there are a lot of companies, a lot of law firms that don't do that. They treat the case as a whole entity and they don't have any milestones along the way. And there are no deliverables. And so this is something that allows more transparency to the client so they can see what the law firm is doing and understand how the law firm is running the case. It's important to establish communication protocols with regular updates on case progress, discussing any adjustments to pricing based on evolving circumstances. Keep in mind, the client is not in charge of how much you charge. With a case, it can be kind of difficult in mid-case to make a change. Sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes it requires that you go in a different direction. But for this particular litigation practice, they improve the client satisfaction with predictable legal costs and a focus on achieving favorable outcomes, not just litigating for the sake of litigating. And that happens a lot these days, especially in family law cases. It also gave them enhanced profitability for the firm because now they had more accurate pricing and efficient resource allocation. Where before they might put the most expensive person working on a case so that as they're doing what they're doing, they can be billing more and billing more and billing more and keeping the senior people busier than the junior people. In this case, maybe a junior person is a better person to be doing what's going on here. Basic research may not necessarily require an attorney. You may not have to go outside the practice or the firm in order to find that person. But the biggest outcome is that it differentiated the firm from competitors by offering innovative pricing structures aligned with client needs. This is something that is unique because if you are pricing something differently than everybody else is, it becomes harder for the competition to be able to figure out what it is you're doing. If they're not doing value-based pricing, they're going to have a long ramp-up period to try to catch up to where you were when they started. Okay, never mind where you're going. Now let's take a look at a business management consulting firm. We'll call it Strategic Solutions Consulting. They're a renowned management consulting firm specializing in providing strategic planning, organizational development, and performance improvement to businesses across industries. In our case, we're doing much of that same thing specifically for professional services, including legal, tax, finance, engineering, architecture, things like this. Because this management firm billed clients on a per diem basis, basically per day or per unit of structure, it often resulted in more disputes, right? And they couldn't get the full value of services to the clients because the clients were fighting them on how much it cost. So they recognize the need for a pricing model that reflects the impact of their guidance on the client's success, thus a transition to value-based fees. Now, obviously, the consultants were accustomed to billing per diem, and that's just the way that it is. And they had concerns about quantifying the valuable of the intangible consulting services. Let's face it, if you're doing a consultation and you, quote unquote, are doing it for free, unquote, right? That's an intangible consulting service. You're not billing for it. You're not putting a dollar figure on it, even if you do put it on the invoice, which, by the way, if you are giving anything away for free, always invoice it. Show what the price should have been and what the price is now. Okay, that's a key, especially if you're going to give it away for free. And then, the client had apprehension about this. I mean, they don't understand an outcome-based pricing. In this case, that's the way that it is. In ours, we do something different. We talked about this. This is range pricing. In this case, this firm is doing outcome-based pricing. And so they still did the workshops and the training. They developed a comprehensive framework, okay, for doing all these types of consulting engagements based on strategic anticipated outcomes and client ROI. In many cases, legal is not dealing with business. So ROI is not really in the factor, okay? But in a consulting firm, because you are doing business to business, it's an ROI factor. You're always looking for a return on an investment to be able to measure things. They also collaborated closely with their clients to define clear objectives, success metrics, and expected deliverables for each consulting project. Now, in our case, we often do multiple projects and run them together and have our milestones the end of each quote-unquote project, and then it moves on to the next one, which has the next milestone at the end of that. And then, of course, you want predefined KPIs that demonstrate the value to clients. Key performance indicators are, again, not lagging indicators. And so KPIs need to be leading indicators of what's going on. And in the outcomes of this particular firm, they obviously increased their client satisfaction, right? The outcomes achieved were always more beneficial. They also enhanced the profitability of the firm through improved pricing accuracy and the ability to capture the full value of strategic consulting expertise. Not just capture it, explain it, make it visible, which makes it easier to get referrals and to do referrals from clients. It strengthened the trust, the collaboration, and the shared accountability. Many times clients that are working as a business, they just want to shove it all off to the management firm and let them own it. And the problem with that is, since there are no guaranteed outcomes, you have some real problems with that. But definitely, this positioned the firm as a trusted advisor and a strategic partner. It allowed them to offer innovative pricing models that prioritize client success and long-term value creation. So in both cases here, you can see that value-based pricing not just affected the price of the project, it also affected the profitability of the firm. It affected the outcomes and the perspective of the clients. It involved them in the process. They weren't just throwing it away. So this is something that's very important. When you're looking at a law firm, clients became much more visible in what's happening there as well. They wanted to see more than just how many hours did you spend. It was now the quality of the legal advice that they were getting. It was the overall use, because when you have people who are not as busy, the lower level people doing the vast tasks, and management and upper, in this case, attorneys, are looking and seeing just to make sure it's right, it only takes a little bit of time at the top. The people at the bottom can get a lot more done. They can focus on more cases by doing it that way. And in many cases, value-based pricing allows them, kind of like an agile strategy, to work as a team, a true team, and not by committee. The difference being teams win as a whole or lose as a whole. In committees, individual members can win and individual members can lose. And it isn't always the best for that to happen. So when you're working in a team environment versus a committee, life is much better. So this is the last week we're going to be talking about value-based pricing. I hope this month has been helpful for you. We've got a brand new topic coming next month. But again, next week is episode 150. We're going to do kind of the best of. This week we are going through with our quote from Steve Siebold. And then we wrapped up our value-based pricing. I hope this has been helpful for you, enlightening to you. In the meantime, wishing you the best in your health, your wealth, your business, your family, everything about you. Take care. We'll see you back next week. Have a great week.